Okay. Hi, Jess. How are you, my babe?
I am wonderful, Brie. It's so nice to see you today and have
Good
this
to see
chat.
you. You look so springy in your beautiful lace top. I love it.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Um, so for everyone watching, this is Jessica Dawn, and I will let her introduce herself, but we actually met back in November at a retreat in Mexico for a group program that we were both in together, and we were roommates and just ended up really connecting and hitting it off and had a fun time over a couple of days talking about all things like elementals, like fairies and light language and just beautiful. You're like a, I don't know. I feel so much like fairy energy in you, but like also just like you're just very goddess, feminine, embodied energy to me. And you opened my eyes to something that you work a lot with, which is flower essences. So I would love to dive into that too. But just to start off, why don't you just introduce yourself and just tell the women whatever you feel called to share about you and your background and some of the things that you've experienced, because like I shared before I hit record, the intention with these Rising Phoenix stories is to highlight different women and give them an opportunity to share some of their stories and experiences, the things that they've been through with the other women, so that we can see the importance of our stories and how we've all been through shit, and we all have the power to rise up through that and create something truly beautiful through it all. And I truly believe that our path to coming home to ourselves and our path to rising into higher purpose is all through our life experiences. So I will let you take it away and share whatever you'd like to share.
Thank you, Brie. Yeah, I have had so many life experiences, up and down, good and bad. And, you know, I really I had a spiritual connection earlier on in my life, but I really uh, let it dim down and kind of numb out because there was no support for it in my life in the environment that I grew up in. I grew up in a quite a more like materialist type of upbringing, and it wasn't supported for me to really explore my true self in that way. And in addition to that, I lost a lot of friends very young. Like five of my friends died for various different reasons before they were like 23 or something like that, or
Oh
24 years.
gosh.
And
Wow.
and it got to the point where I had to help bury a couple. Two of them were Jewish funerals, and
Wow.
which is really really rough. And I I like I got to the point where like I started to like just really numb out. I really started to numb out of existence. And I got to the point where like one of them, I didn't even go to their memorial service because I just was like, I was like, I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
Like, like I can't, like I just couldn't do it anymore. And it really kind of shook my faith. Uh, and this was like in addition to like having grown up in a household that was quite controlling, and I wasn't really able to explore my true self. And there was just there really was no access point to my spirit, to my true knowing between all of these like tragic losses and feeling like the world was completely outside of my control, and that there was no real higher power. Uh, Between that and like just like basically being manipulated into thinking I was like this really terrible person that had to do whatever my mom told me, otherwise I would never receive any love from anyone.
Mm-hmm.
This is very difficult. And it ended up leading me to really like abandon a lot of what I knew intuitively with my heart, abandon my own earlier awakening experiences. When I was 22, I had such a profound awakening that I literally saw the light. This was from a very painful rejection by somebody who I consider would have considered a soulmate. And he he really brutally rejected me, and it almost like felt like it killed me. And I was walking
Mhm.
around for days, like literally having a hard time breathing, literally feeling like I had no identity whatsoever, like total identity loss, totally connected to the light. And I could see the light everywhere, in everything, in every person, in every plant, to varying degrees. And it was like nothing else I've ever experienced in my life, even to this day. It was very powerful. And it was horribly painful to go through, but it also was one of the most beautiful, like, things I have to remember. I'll always remember that, about the truth of the light, and how the light exists in all of us, and how in our true nature, we're not our ego identities. We're not that illusion. And but yet, having said that, this was a long time ago. This was back before, people met online in Facebook groups and talked about spiritual things. This was a really long time ago. And I didn't have a supportive community, and I was still trying to please my parents and go to school. I was studying landscape architecture at the time. And I was like, you got to finish your graduate, like you have to, well, I was doing like a thesis undergrad at the time. My parents like, you have to finish, like you have to go to grad school. And I literally just shoved it down into a box, because even when I tried to talk to anyone about it, like my closest friends, they were like not receptive. So it's like, okay, well, this must not be like a real thing, so I'm gonna just go along with what everyone else is doing. And I did that for a really long time. And I ended up feeling like, hey, it's so much easier to just try and be like everybody else, so I'm going to do that. And so I got into a marriage that, even though I tried to do healing, I was kind of aware that my mother would be like considered a quote unquote like narcissistic mother type. It's just very, very hard to heal from when you're still in those control dynamics. And so despite my best intentions or efforts, I ended up really getting into a repetitive situation where I was living out a lot of those childhood traumas. And I did that in my marriage as well. And because I ended up marrying someone who also was not open to spiritual knowing, spiritual understanding. And he was quite the opposite. He actually really knocked it. And he was also ended up being very controlling, like the household I grew up in. So
It's funny how that happens.
it's funny how that happens, isn't it? And I ended up looking at things through rose-colored glasses, because of the aspects of me that were unhealed, that were still looking for that love outside of me. Because it takes, let's face it, it takes a lot of time, like a lot of maturity, a lot of life experience, and often a lot of pain to get forced to really fully heal. And I think now things are a little easier than they used to be, because the earth energies have risen, and because there's a greater collective momentum around healing, like in 2020 and even since 2012. But this was kind of prior to that.
Yeah.
It was a little trickier. I actually got married in 2012, ironically. So
Really?
it's kind of like I sealed the deal right as things were cracking open. Like,
Right as the new earth was coming online.
yeah,
Which
and
probably
anyway,
pulled you further the opposite way.
yeah, and well, I was still kind of, I was still kind of playing in that game of like, it's better to try and fit in. It's better to try and go along, go like have a big social life, do the kind of like typical things that people do, go out, like be a
Yeah.
foodie. Even at
And
Toronto,
was
it's like
your intuition like screaming at you? Could you hear her?
I just felt like there was a part of me that was like missing. There was a part of me that was like, and I always felt kind of afraid. I even told my husband when I first met him, I always kind of feel afraid.
Mm.
And things just kept happening to, like, that's what happens when you're not following spirit, when you're focusing on the external and you're not balanced in your internal world. Then your lower three chakras are going to just keep holding on to all that old trauma, all that old suffering, and keep throwing back new situations that are going to feel painful and icky, and confront you until you heal, and until you like go back and heal that inner child aspect that was causing that trouble. And
Right.
so it it ended up being that a huge catastrophic accident happened in my family life after I got married and after I had my daughter, when she was around 1 year old. And my father-in-law had an accident, and he became quadriplegic. And I also at this time met someone who you would call like a twin flame catalyst, who's somebody who I had many past life experiences with. And through meeting this person and through this accident, which was very, very, traumatic and caused a lot of post-traumatic stress, the combination of the two just like blew me right open, and I had a profound heart awakening. And
what was
through
that like? Talk to me about that heart awakening, because I've had a heart awakening back in January, and it was like a crazy feeling. But it was as I was falling in love with someone. Yeah, it was like the craziest activation I've ever felt. But I'm curious, like what that was like for you.
Well, it feels like your heart is like exploding wide open, and like a ladder is being drawn from your heart up into the heavens to connect you to all the 12 dimensions. And so you're no longer stuck in that like illusory 10-dimensional matrix, which I won't get into details at this time, but you're getting connected to the true tree of life, the true reality. And like you truly have now the chance to liberate your soul from like the false matrix paradigm, which, prior to that massive heart awakening, reconnecting you to all 12 dimensions, you can't. And so it doesn't allow you to like work out all your karma. It doesn't allow you, and then you get stuck in these like rebirth cycles in the astral plane. And I mean, that's a whole other real long talk that we're not going to get into today. But basically, it liberates you, right? It liberates your soul. Your soul is reborn. It's a gift. But what then happens is then you actually have to really, really, that's when you really can deal with your shit, and you do deal with your shit, and it's hard.
Yeah, because then it's probably blaringly obvious all the things that are not aligned, which you probably did know at a deeper level had not been aligned, but now there's a huge spotlight on it.
And all of a sudden, like everything has to go, right?
Yeah.
Everything. And that's like was.
And
really
did a lot of it fall away naturally? Or was it all stuff that you had
a lot of it I like pushed my way out. I was just like, get me out of here. But it was kind of like weird because it was like a dual thing. Because one part of me, my soul was like, get me out of here now. And my angels were like, get me out of here now. But on the flip side, there was like, my ego was like, I want my family to stay together. Because like, it was just like my marriage was falling apart at the seams. My husband was really not supportive of like anything I was going through. I think he thought I was becoming bipolar. He wanted me to go on medication, and he wasn't like really processing what happened with his dad. And he was like, he ended up having to take over the family business and was really caught up with all of that. And like, but it made me really realize, like, I could see through how everything played out with that we were not in an equal marriage. He wasn't respecting me. He wasn't listening to what I had to say. He wasn't being a team player. And I finally was realizing that, oh my God, like the reason why our marriage was harmonious before is because I was overcompensating for everything. And it just like was like this huge, like, because I didn't see until like this really difficult thing happened. I wasn't seeing the truth, the reality.
Right. Your perception was completely distorted by all of your own,
by my people pleasing, by my trauma, by my need to like fit in, by my need to be accepted, by my need to be loved, by the only thing I really knew was being controlled, was not really being respected.
Wow.
So it was just like huge change.
Did you think that you were crazy? Like, were you just being totally gaslit? Like when you're saying my husband thought that I could be bipolar, was there any part of you that like was questioning that, or did you understand what was going on? Because that makes me wonder, like, how many people are, and I bet this happens a lot, like how many people are going through some sort of like profound spiritual experience where different things are coming online and they think they're crazy in some way, like mentally unwell, because that's what society has taught us to believe.
Yes, it's so true. And I'll tell you, I think that I know I have overcome huge hurdles in that area of self-trust.
Yeah.
And moving from where I was and self-doubting like my spiritual experiences so much and being so afraid to share them, then like even like a slight intuition. Like sometimes
because at first did you share them and then it just got
Well, my husband would get mad. Like, he would get mad at me for sharing an intuition.
Yeah.
And
And I think
and that
so
was
many women can probably relate to that of feeling like they're experiencing things, they're seeing things, they're hearing things, all of this, feeling things, and they don't have anyone to share it with. And maybe they want to share it with their partner or their spouse, and they're so afraid of not being seen and heard, but also of being seen and heard. Like, which, I think that can be really, that's a really relatable thing for, I think, a lot of women who are coming into their divine feminine, to not have that relationship support in that specific area.
yeah. And I think that, like, it's one thing, like, to, because don't forget, like, there was a level of codependency there in that relationship. So, like, I kind of was, it was traumatizing for me that he couldn't support me in a way because of my codependency. So, um, th- there's a difference, I think, between, like, just not being so codependent and being able to kind of safely go through a bit of an awakening on your own, and, like, realizing that you don't need to necessarily throw it on your partner if they're not ready for it. That doesn't have to be unhealthy. But if there's this,
Right.
like, if there is aggressiveness from another person around them seeing you go through an experience that they're not, that's new or different from them, or if they're, like, being, if they in any way kind of negatively change their behavior towards you because of that, because of codependency or vice versa, like, that's when you have a real issue.
Mhm.
So, because we can't always expect we're going to be at the exact same level
Of
as a
course.
partner.
Of course. And I think that's what it does always come back to is, you can be in a relationship with someone who is having a completely different spiritual experience than you. Everybody's spiritual path is their own. And I'm talking outside of like any religious constructs, just like everyone's spiritual connection with themselves and the universe is their own. And we do have to remind ourselves of that not everybody's going to be into the same things that we're into and like feeling the same things. And that's okay. That doesn't necessarily mean that the relationship isn't supposed to work.
Yeah, every situation is unique, and I think as long as there's a sense of mutual support and mutual respect, then
Mm, mhm.
it's good. Respect is the ultimate foundation for a successful relationship. You can love a person a lot, and maybe not be able to have a successful relationship with that person because of a lack of respect on either front.
Mm,
So,
that's really powerful. Yes.
yeah, big lesson, because I did love my husband, and I
Hmm.
realized that the reason why I couldn't make my relationship work was because he didn't respect me. And I
Right.
realized later on, the bigger aha was realizing that I had to do a lot of healing and come into my power first, was that there was a level of me that didn't respect him in
Yeah.
truth as well. And then beyond that, finally getting to the point of just forgiveness and acceptance and
Hmm.
surrender.
Hmm.
And it's because, it's like, it's hard when you have a small child with a person, and like, you thought you have all these dreams around a life with a person, and then everything unravels so quickly.
Mm.
And because I went through, like, huge catastrophes, massive rapid awakening, and it just happened so fast. That's not, especially with a small child, that's not the norm, and that's very difficult. Breaking up with a small child is very difficult. And I'm not saying I'm the only person in the world that's gone through that. Like, there's lots of single moms out there, but it was just such a, like, huge change from my expectation. And I
Hmm.
had to, like, really, like, get over everything about my victim mentality, and, like,
Yeah.
why did this happen to me, and there's just so much more around it. Like, I had started a new job, I ended up losing that job, and I really kind of thought for a little while that the whole world was against me.
Mm.
And I mean, it kind of was, but in the bigger picture, it's all part of the one. It's all ultimately, the light and the dark
Right.
is all part of the one love, the one
Yeah.
coming to our awakening, our understanding of our higher selves as being these powerful, divine co-creators
Right.
with God. And and when you're really disconnected, when you're not in balance because you thought that was what you're supposed to do because nobody was supporting your spiritual life, then that happens. But that's part of this whole thing of the phoenix, right? That's
Right.
right. It's like you made all the mistakes so you could learn, and so you could fall down and you could then rise
Right.
into your truth. And now it's
Yeah.
like I do these like Akashic records readings for people, and I go into the magical realms,
Mm.
and I just I'm in such flow, and I see things, and I get like activation after activation after activation. And people have been saying so much lately what a clear channel I am. And there's this one thing that I do when I'm in these specific activations, where I get them to look in the water and to see their reflection. And I don't want to say like too much in case anybody ever wants to have a session with me, but I do find it's very telling that it's the, the most common thing that comes up is learning to trust themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it just comes back to what you were saying about like I overcame like basically people telling me that I was a horrible person who didn't know anything than what I was talking about in my life, into like being a powerful channel of spirit that's like totally trusting every little thing that's coming out of my mouth. And and I'm helping to activate other people
Mm.
to do the same for themselves and to learn that self-trust for themselves. And it's so huge. It's the foundation for all your spiritual growth. I think as a woman is really starting to learn to trust yourself.
Yes, absolutely. I resonate with that so much. And so what was the time frame between your relationship unraveling and you feeling like the world was against you, um, until now where you've built this new life and this business of using these gifts to serve others?
So it is from the time that it really started to like explode, which was when my father-in-law had his accident, till now is almost 5 years, basically five
Okay.
years. Yeah.
And can you share a little bit more about what some of that healing process looked like for you? Any like practices or things that really helped you on that journey of deconditioning yourself and learning to trust yourself again?
Yes. So there is several different things that came along on my journey. One of the first things I studied was a cosmic consciousness astrology, which helped me to get a foundation in um, like I was trying to get this foundation in esoteric arts and metaphysical things so that I could get more value out of like the people I was like coming across and finding online that were teaching me about awakening and about ascension. So I learned about astrology. I learned about tarot and oracle card reading, and I still do actually quite a bit of that. Like I have my own Facebook group where I do a couple of overall energy readings and card readings every
I
week.
love your readings.
And I love them. I love them so much. I love how spirit's working through me as a channel to share those. And that was kind of like where I started. I did a little bit of learning about very basic about crystals so that I could work with those too a little bit, and Reiki. And that was like my foundation. But I just knew there was like more. I was like I kept getting pushed to not stop and to like keep growing. And I ended up having this really, really powerful, I guess, changes from two modalities specifically, which I now do a lot of work with. And one of those is the Akashic Records, which for me, it goes beyond that because I take people through these like multidimensional healing experiences through their records. And I, it's very, very, very powerful for helping people to clear things out quickly and really reconnect with their gifts, their power, their magic, their past life experiences. Their star-seededness sometimes comes through, and their inheritances and birthrights as a result of that, because of what they bring and what they're meant to do for their mission. Like it's so powerful,
Mm.
and it really helps to like shift things and heal on a really deep level when it comes to your history and your parallel incarnations, your parallel existences. And the other thing that I've do, and I'm so passionate about it, and it's this beautiful, beautiful journey into the feminine, the divine feminine, is flower essences, flower essence therapy. And I have had such profound emotional and physical healing with flower essences. And the physical healing comes as a byproduct of the emotional healing. And it's been such a rewarding journey just to even like work with and learn with the group of women who I've learned from, who are such goddesses in their own right, to really own that feminine space and to really use the right plants, the right healing tools to heal your womb space, to heal your sacral area, so that you can release all of that damage from traumatic relationships from this lifetime, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So that, and your inner child wounds from this lifetime, so that you can really like heal and release, you know, any sort of physical ailments that you might be holding on to in the womb related to all of that hurt, which could have to do with menstrual cramps. It could have to do with PMS. It could have to do with uterine fibroids. It could be endometriosis. Or any other potential issues like with cysts on your fallopian tubes, or anything that it could be of that nature. It's all related to the healing of the feminine. Mm-hmm. And we live in a world that hasn't been very feminine friendly. And, you know, I could get into a big, long journey about how this all started, even before the flower essences. I did some trips to Glastonbury area and Avalon and Avabury. And well, I mean, Avalon is the higher dimensional Glastonbury, just to be clear. And there's a site I went to where I had profound experience of womb healing. And I even like heard the cries of a woman raped at this site, which is known as a site of the womb. It's the source spring of the River Kennet. And I literally like had to like bend over in tears when I was walking out, because it was so emotional. And I went back to this site like a year or something later, and my womb waters like ran free again, like when I was crossing the river to go to this sacred space, or sorry, on the way back after I left this, going to this sacred space for the second time. So like I don't even have like the full rationale for like how that is, and was this woman me? Because it wasn't me like in this lifetime, but yet it was affecting me. And so somehow it felt like some parallel, like in that respect, like that was like some parallel incarnation that wanted to be healed. And through that,
my whole crown is tingling as you're saying this.
Yeah, through that really opened the gateway for other work in doing deeper womb healing, healing the mother wound, doing womb journeys. Like it's very important to go back and do these deep meditations, doing womb journeys, connecting with your ancestors. And all of that really opened up the door to flower essences even more. Not saying you have to do all that to get into flower essence therapy, but that was my journey. And everyone's journey is perfect for them. But the working with the plants is just so profound. It specifically helps on emotional issues that are stuck in the tissues to actually heal physically. And it's like, you know, nobody's going to say on paper that flower essences heal you physically, because it's just, there's no science to really prove it. But it's just my experience, and it's a lot of people's experiences. And so we say, as flower essence therapists, we're working on your emotional healing. So, but it's been such a powerful journey, because once you clear those lower chakras, everything starts to flow better, and you're able to actually then channel, you're able to then manifest, right? Like, and feel safe. Like a lot of women can't manifest and can't create the abundance they want to receive, or those feelings of safety that they want, because of these issues in the lower chakras. And also a part of why they're not able to trust their intuition, that womb wisdom, is because their womb is blocked. And the more you heal your womb, the more you're going to trust all of that intuition coming through your body, let alone like the stuff that's coming through your third eye or your crown. So I I love all my modalities. They've helped me a lot. And people, I really set this very strong intention quite a little while ago now, becoming a magical, transformative high priestess. And this is the path I was guided on to do it. And it's been wonderful.
I really feel that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And I really feel like with you, you are just such a powerful example of how we can take these like traumatic and uncomfortable and painful experiences of heartbreak and allow ourselves to open up to what's really there for us and to find the path that's been there for us the entire time. Like your divine soul blueprint has been there the whole time. And I mean, I truly believe like what's meant for us is meant for us, and how things show up can be different based on our free will. But so I'm sure you would have figured all of this out no matter what, right? But it's interesting that it took, this relationship and the dissolving of this relationship for you to really allow yourself to own what was coming through and to share it.
Yeah. I mean, it's absolutely like one more aspect I didn't share, a huge thing in my journey in terms of my healing is that because of like I think that like you said, like I have a certain blueprint, and I think I was always meant to channel like some pretty powerful spiritual energies, but I wasn't in an environment ever that could allow for that. And
Right.
like it doesn't fit with like, trying to like go to a normal school and have a normal like higher education and, go and have a professional career. It doesn't energy. And so I, for, many, many years was a hair puller, suffered from something, people call trichotillomania. And it really took coming fully into myself to kind of liberate myself from everything that was really stopping me from the natural gifts of that I already have. Like and from this place, I'm like, oh, I'm actually like quite blessed. I'm actually quite blessed to have this energy, to have this channel. But I also had to find a place where it could like exist within the world that doesn't really work like that. It works a little different. And the hair pulling was just such a symptom of the anxiety and of suppressing things to just try and fit in and to like kind of get caught up in all this stress that like you see going on around us, right? Like kind of stressed and like trying to hold on to some sense of like control, which is an illusion, and but it's like not real. And the more you wake up, the more you like accept and realize the divine order and the divine guidance, then you can like be free of all that. And so but that just like for a long time, like I was very much in these cycles of shame and guilt that just repeated themselves because I thought there was something seriously wrong with me. And it was really just that I was just not able to really be me.
Oh, what a powerful statement. How many people think that there's something wrong with them when really they just don't have the space or environment to fully express themselves? And we somehow start to believe that there's something innately wrong with us. Wow. That's beautiful. I'm so happy for you and proud of you for like the massive shifts that you've gone through. I mean, I've only known you less than a year, but you are a very clear channel. And I definitely like feel like I recognized your light and your gifts from the moment we met. I felt that very strongly, and then, you know, I experienced some of your healing energy in person
Oh,
in
yeah.
Mexico with Jessica was part of, I don't know if I've talked about this in the group, but back in November when I was having like a dark night of the soul, like major grieving time of like a lot of stuff from my rape that needed to be released somatically from my body. Jessica was took part in a really powerful healing experience for me. She and a couple other healers held space for me to remove a lot of dark energy, essentially, from my body. And that was a really pivotal point of my healing journey. So thank you for that. And that, you know, that's something that you probably could not have done had you not experienced and taken yourself through the stuff that you've taken yourself through, you know? Like we learn how to help others through our own experiences is what I've really fully come to realize, and I really want other women to own. That we don't have to run from our experiences, shame ourselves, judge ourselves for all the shit that we've been through. We actually get to take it and really see what the gifts are and then share that with others. And that's the power in it. That's how you take your power back from that victim mentality, you
Absolutely.
know?
Absolutely. And don't forget, like, think of yourself as like, so here's an empowering thought. Like, we are antiviruses, right?
Mm.
Our energy, when we hold the energy of total high vibration, purity, wholeness, health, we are we are an energy frequency, a template. You could say a certain DNA coding that we can write onto other people, that we can share from one cell to the other, from one
Mm.
person to another. And so, just like the way that a virus would work in a negative format, right?
Yes, we all
And
have
so,
codes that we get to share with other people
that's
and
right.
activate within them.
So we all have certain codes that we can, and templating and healing that we've done that we
Mm.
can um, pass on to others, that we can template on to others with our intention, with our consciousness, and with our energy work. So it's like really about realizing our power, realizing that we're much more than the physical flesh, and that our energy really matters, and our DNA really matters, and that our DNA is not just physical, it's also etheric, and that through that we can truly help another person to heal
Mm.
through that, and through our just through our spoken word is so powerful.
Mm.
So it's, I
Yes.
think that's um, a huge thing that a lot of
Yeah.
women especially are going to be realizing and embracing more and more as the year progresses, is the reality of their power, and doing whatever healing work is required to re-embrace that. And it doesn't mean it has to be a really overt aggressive power. It's like the true feminine power that there hasn't been a lot of space for within the context of our normal society, which has been so productive oriented, which is very action oriented and masculine. But now
Masculine, right?
this time in truth is such a gift. It's in many respects for the rise of true feminine power. And if we can all see it like that and embrace the blessing in it, I just feel like it's just magical and magic and miracles.
Mm. Magicals. I love it. I love it. Um,
So
so I have one last question for you, and that is what what comes to you, or what is the energy of the phoenix? What are the phoenix codes? What does that mean for you in your interpretation? Because it's different for everybody.
Oh, that's a really good question. Well, the phoenix is all about it's all about the flame of transmutation in alchemy. It's all about um, realizing that by taking on the certain pains and difficulties, we're providing ourselves with actual material that can be alchemized into creating even more light. And so through that, we can start to find gratitude for every difficult thing that's happened to us, all that lead, because the more lead you take on, the more gold you can create.
Ooh, I like
And
that.
so it's actually, I just really see that phoenix rising as harnessing that gold, harnessing the golden ray of your ascension, the golden ray of your true destiny.
Beautiful. Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for this conversation, for sharing your story with everyone. And is there anything else that you'd like to add about your work, how people can reach out to you or work with you, anything like that you'd like to share?
Yeah,
You have an amazing Facebook group, I know.
I do. My Facebook group it's private, but it's certainly open if anyone wants to join. If you want to watch my bi-weekly readings or see any of the other content that gets posted in there. Each reading is usually approximately an hour, but there's no mandatory requirement that you watch every single one. But I do find that people end up getting, pulled once they join the group. They just kind of get pulled into whichever ones they need to hear, and they're super fun. And it's always great having new people. So it's called Rainbow Light Reiki: Crossing the Rainbow Bridge into New Earth. Perhaps I can post maybe a link to that. And
totally. I can include a link when I post this too. Yeah.
And my website, if you want to take a look, is www.rainbowlightreiki.com. And there's a whole host of services that I have listed on there that I do. A lot of them I spoke about here today. And I also am going to be starting a group, which I will have more details on hopefully in the next couple of weeks, to help women to come into this embodiment that I've spoken of today. It'll be a smaller group, I think. I mean, I can't say for sure, but I think I'm going to cap the group at 12 people, 11 or 12 people. And it will be going to really a deep dive into, I'm hearing like the rose codes as well. So a lot to do with flowers and the divine feminine healing of, to just like anything in your maternal lineage, your mitochondrial DNA that really needs to get healed so that you can express the divine feminine is going to be a big focus of the group. And there's going to be a lot of different tools and techniques to allow you to do that. And that once you come into that, you're really going to be able to come much more in balance. And that's what will also ultimately birth the divine masculine to rise. Yep. And so, and we really are doing this for ourselves, but it's also going to deepen your partnerships ultimately in the long run, because you'll be able to, from this new place, have the energetic space to hold a sacred union with your partner or your future partner.
Right. So, when you come home to yourself, then you can do that with others. So amazing, amazing. Well, I'm excited to share this. And thank you again so much for taking the time to connect and share your light, girl. You're the best.
Thank you, Brie. This was a lot of fun. I really thank you everyone for listening. Good. Thank you for connecting. I'm sending you all so much love and blessings and light. And I can't wait to connect with you further.
Yay. Thanks, babe.